What's going on, Mitch's World? This is episode 7, I believe. Let me check. Hold on. Yeah, it is episode 7. It is episode 7. What's going on, Mitch's World? You guys could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me. So for that, I greatly appreciate you guys. Like I said, it's episode 7. I don't like, so full disclosure, it's not till like I go live or like have the camera on me that I'm like, what am I gonna talk about today? So most of the things, it's not like I come in here with a pre-planned thing. I do have an outline, like, I'm gonna give you a brief recap of my week, anything interesting that happened, and just kind of talk about something that I find value in, or something that's related to the week. So this week has been a good week. I'm back in the flow. I'm back in a pocket, you know what I'm saying, in all aspects of life. So, for you guys that don't know, I haven't really been working since December. Like, I'm always doing something, so it's not like I'm just sitting at home, like, twiddling my thumbs. Not that type of person. But, like, as far as, like, the way that most people know me to get to it, I have not been getting to it like that. But I had a first quarter review with Rachel, my bookkeeper, and she just gave me my number. And what I mean by my number is, like, this is what I need to make on a weekly basis for everything to make sense. So when she gave me the number, I'll share it with you guys. So I have to make $5,500 a week for life to make sense in all aspects. So I'm like, all right, I can do that. That's not hard work. It's work, but it's not hard work. And I think just having a number gave me motivation. I spoke with one of my mentors earlier this week, and, he's just working very hard. He's grinding. He's doing what he needs to do. And I simply asked him, like, how are you able to sustain and do all these things and balance work and home? And he said something very, like, simple but profound in my personal opinion. He says, I operate with the end goal in mind. I'm able to show my wife what we're working towards and why we're working towards it. So therefore, she's able to justify me taking a call at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night. Because it's only for a period of our lives. It's not for our whole lives. So if you're able to stay down with me and do the things we need to do in this moment, we will be able to live in a manner that most won't be able to live for the rest of their life. So with that being said, it kind of brought me back to my numbers. Like, all right, operate with the end goal in mind. Because if I know this is what I need to make, I know what I need to do on a weekly basis, from a, appointment standpoint, from get out and hustle, whatever the case may be, however I want to slice and dice it, this is what I need to be doing. So, yeah, that helped out. That was earlier in the week, so I got to it. This week I worked a few days. I worked Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, yeah. So I usually take Mondays off unless I have an appointment. Just so, Monday's kind of a reset day for me because Sunday, even like today's Sunday, I've been running around, went to Costco, went to Aldi's, went to Whole Foods, got ready for the week. I got to go home, clean the crib, went to church. So it's not really a restful day. You get what I'm saying? And then Saturday, I went to the Beltline. So what'd I do? I worked out in the morning, went and played basketball that morning. And then I went to the Beltline with a couple people from my group, which it was actually really, really good. I think we had a really good conversation. And I'm going to touch on a few points on that. So yeah, we'll get into that shortly. What else did I do this week? Friday, had a senior event, a bingo event for the seniors, so played some bingo. One lady caught an attitude with me, and as I watched it, because I recorded content for content purposes, and I see why not even why she had an attitude, not even forgot we had an appointment, let me not say that, but like, she wanted to speak to me about something. And when I went to speak to her at the end, because I was getting ready to leave, and there was a group of them outside. It was a beautiful day, Friday. And I was like, one of the ladies was like, hey, aren't you forgetting somebody? I'm like, well, the way she's staring at me, I'm assuming it's her. What's going on? And she just had a horrible attitude about everything to a point where I just didn't care to help her. I'm like, I came back to help you. And, if anyone that knows me, unless you are just grossly out of character, I'm gonna be pretty kind to you, you know what I'm saying? So she was just acting like she had a bad attitude. And then when I walked off, she's like, I don't give a damn about no insurance, no way. Okay. So actually that leads me into my, I guess that's gonna be, it's your attitude. I think the better attitude you have about a thing, the better experience you have with a thing, right? And it's one of those things, like, a lot of people have bad attitudes when it comes to a lot of different aspects of life. And it reflects in the results that they get. They have a woe is me attitude. This is just how life goes attitude. And I think that attitude in itself is self-defeating because you're going to kill your dreams, your morale before you ever get started. So it's just one of those things. I think just having a good attitude can take you a very, very long way just in life. And I think that's one of the ways that I've become successful is my attitude. My attitude determines my altitude, the way I move, the way I operate. If you know me, I'm usually pretty happy. I don't allow anything to weigh me down, whether it's short term, long term. Yes, I'm human. I go through emotions. I feel. I go through other things, but I don't stay in a place that's not serving me long term. And that's part of my attitude, because if you stay in a space that is not inviting, that's not welcoming, that's not promoting your growth, you will eventually get to a point where you're just way down. You aren't feeling good, because there's power. The Bible says that there's power, there's life and death in power of the tongue. So it's like you're speaking these things into your life. Your attitude is a thought process, right? So now you're thinking these things into your life, and now you're wondering, like, oh, why is this happening to me? It's because your thought process warranted it. It invited in negativity. So one thing that I've been blessed with, because I'll be honest with you, I'll be lying to you if I'm like, oh yeah, I've trained my mind to be like this. Like, I've always been like that, and I think it came from childhood, just being lighthearted and how I moved, how I operate, just doing the things, being a jokester, being a class clown. I've always just been very lighthearted when it comes to certain things. So I continue to remain lighthearted just throughout life. And don't get me wrong, I'm very serious when I need to be serious, but I'm not a woe is me type of person. You know what I'm saying? And I think that goes back to what we're talking about, is attitude. Your attitude determines your altitude. And I think a lot of times just people have bad attitudes. So if you feel like you're not getting what you desire, instead of just thinking like worst case scenario, or thinking about, oh, this is just how life goes for people like me or for myself or whatever case may be, always think about the best outcome. Like, negativity doesn't live in my life. I don't think about this could be the worst case scenario. I think that you're doing yourself and God, well, you're doing God first a disservice, but you're doing yourself a disservice by just assuming like this is worst case scenario, or worst case scenario will happen to me. So I challenge you to check your attitude, see how things are moving, see how things are rolling. I forgot to do it, so I'm gonna do it now. I gotta get into the jacket. Gotta get into the jacket, right? So, you know I rock with my man Larry the Long Way, Larry June. Got the Midnight Organic on, the varsity jacket. The stitching is crazy. The stitching is crazy. We got the Midnight Organic, the oranges, got the, you know what I'm saying, numbers, all the good stuff. Good job, Larry. Vegan leather, got the orange. This is my favorite part right here. The orange man. Good job. Just, jacket goes crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was in Costco getting compliments. I was at church getting compliments. It's like that. Got the, you know, and you know, I got the Constructs on, got the Timbs on. Can't go wrong with the Timbs. Got the oversized cargos on. Just good vibes, good vibes, good vibes, you know, so yeah. But as I mentioned yesterday, we had I went out with a group of people from my group, and one thing I do realize, like, that's part of my ministry. I have no desire to be a pastor or anything like that. So it's like, when I say ministry, I just think it's part of using my influence and using like my resources to push the kingdom. That's part of my work. And I think everyone has their own tools and things that they've been equipped with to further the kingdom, right? And that God's kingdom, you know what I'm saying? So I think part of mine is using my personality, my social skills, my things that I was naturally gifted that a lot of people just don't have, to further the kingdom. So as I mentioned before, I do my singles group. We meet every Thursday. So if you're in the Atlanta area, you see this, pull up, have a good time with us. But we did a game night this past week. Game night was lit. We did the game, and I'm actually gonna put some content out here on YouTube, some shorts. But we played one game. He's a Christian, but she's a Christian, but, and we'll just throw out like different things. Like, for example, one was like, she's a Christian, but she likes girls, you know what I'm saying? And we're supposed to either stay together on the stage or, you know, if you agree, you stay. If you disagree, you go your separate ways. So we did that, but long story short, we had a good time, good turnout. We had one of the girls, she mentioned, she was, oh yeah, I'm going to go to Beltline. And eventually it started off as a solo thing. And I just told her, I was like, if you end up going to the Beltline, let me know something, I'll pull up on you. And like, I'm one of those people, I'm trying to get a lot better with it. Cause like, I'm more of unless it's like a date or like a more intimate setting, it's like, I have a huge personality. And it could be a lot. So like, I'm mindful if I can't show up in a certain way, I don't show up at all, right? Because I don't want to deal with oh, what's wrong? What's going on? Is everything okay? It's like, no. But I do feel like in intimate settings, I can show up in just a laissez-faire way, not in a bad way, but just like not so much as expected, because it's just me and you. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's an intimate conversation, it's intimate connection, so we don't have to do too much. But anyway, so girlie said, hey, I'm gonna go to the Beltline. I was like, just let me know something. Yeah. So I tapped in with her Saturday morning. I'm like, you still going to the Beltline? She's like, yeah. I was like, well, for obvious reasons, I didn't want it to be a one-on-one thing. So I was just like, hey, well, I'm gonna invite others from the group just to make sure, like, hey, it's friendly, co-ed, copacetic, all the good things. So I think 6 people ended up showing up, which was, I feel like that's dope. You know what I'm saying? Like 6 individuals took time out their day on Saturday to kind of hang with us. And we end up like just catching the vibe. 2 dropped off pretty early. We met at Hawkers, 8, and then 2 dipped off like right after Hawkers. But 4 of us end up walking the Beltline, and we had really good intentional conversation. And I think that's the power of community. Because like when you have community, and I feel like a lot of men don't have female friends that they're not in an intimate space with, and vice versa. A lot of women don't have men that they're in an intimate space with that they can see their thought process, how they move, what they got going on. So we end up just chopping it, you know what I'm saying? And it was dope. But one of the things that came up in conversation, and I'm gonna share my 2 cents on it, is why there's a shortage of black men in church. And one of the girls was like, well, I think maybe men have a hard time believing another man died for their sins. I'm like, no, because if that's the case, like, they wouldn't believe. I think there's a strong group of men that believe, but I think, a lot of them worship from home, so on and so forth. They don't get involved with church, but simply because it requires a certain level of accountability, right? And when I say accountability, you now become accountable to not only yourself, but to the communities that you get involved in. And as a spiritual head, you don't wake up one day and just like, I'm a leader. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, it requires accountability. It requires iron sharpening iron. So you're gonna have people around you that hold you accountable to your shortcomings, whether it's good or bad. And I think that accountability requires vulnerability. And I think a lot of men have a hard time being vulnerable with the reality of the situation. And also realizing they may not be good people. Simple as that. I had to come to that conclusion in certain areas of my life where I was moving flawed. I wasn't the person I thought I was, you know what I'm saying? And I'm still working on myself, so I'm not here like, oh, I'm perfect, I'm this amazing person, because I'm not. I'm flawed just like anybody else, but I think one thing that I'm mindful of is how I show up, and definitely how I show up in community, and having the right people and things that hold me accountable, right? So back to what I was originally saying, I think a lot of people don't have that accountability piece that forces them to be better people, and they avoid it because they usually pick friends and situations that allow them to promote themselves in a manner that just is less than. Like, the world tells you, oh, it's okay to have, 20 different women doing 20 different things for you. And you pick friends based off of how you operate. So now they're praising you for having these 20 different women, and, oh, you getting some money, you got these women, you're the man, you know what I'm saying? Whereas Christ and church and the church community forces you to like, okay, hey, that's not how we operate. You have to be intentional with how you show up with God's daughters. You know what I'm saying? You have to be intentional with how you move. And I've fallen short of that, Lord knows how many times, you know what I'm saying? But I think now that I'm growing and I'm developing and I'm becoming more of a man of God, I realize the importance of how I show up, especially not only for myself, but in community, because it requires me to be a better version of myself. It requires me to be a better person. And I think that's the piece that a lot of men stray away from when it comes to being in church, being in community, operating under God-like principles, operating under God's umbrella in a space that involves other people, because it's easy to isolate when you're doing, bad things. And not even just when it comes to women. It's like whether you're dealing with porn, you're dealing with lust, you're dealing with these different things, it's like the devil will isolate you, and then you separate yourself further from God, because you're like, all right, well, I've been out here sinning. I don't feel right praying. I don't feel right doing these things. And the devil will have you right where you want to be, versus like, I have brothers in Christ that will call me and be like, hey man, I slipped up. Hey man, I did X, Y, and Z. And I think it really means a lot that, A, you've even find value in calling me and let me know like, hey, this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm moving. But B, more importantly, that you have that community, because like for a long time, I did not have that community. So it's easy to just slip in a space where there's no accountability and you just moving how you move. And before you know it, you're in a cycle, and the cycle is kicking your tail, right? So I live by a philosophy: either you break the cycle breaks you, but something will happen, right? So yeah, I think that those type of conversations, being around those type of like-minded individuals, I could see the beginning of new relationships starting, friendships, all the good things, just hearing how some of these people have now started doing life together. I think that's super important for me. And one of the girls, she shared with me that she was in a space where she was just isolating, going to work, going home. She saw my TikTok. She pulled up, and now I'm seeing her jump in the community. She was out there on the Beltline with us yesterday. She went to like a Saturday morning group, and she doesn't even go to our church. She's just building community. You know what I'm saying? So it made me feel good, because it's like, all I could do is provide a space, and it's nobody but God. It's no coincidence that TikTok year to date has done the most organic numbers out of all my TikToks. I got other TikToks doing numbers, but like, not like that one. And it's no coincidence that like the results are coming from that. So I feel like God's, working in my favor. He's doing the different things in my life that are allowing me to continue to grow as an individual and move in the right direction. So yeah. I'm getting close to that mark. I try to keep it under 20, because like, I feel like after 20, like, you're watching a small episode of my life. So, and it's fascinating that I'm a LaBelle, Chatty LaBelle, I'll run my mouth. So it's just like, it's fascinating that like, I'm over here talking to a camera for 17, 18, 20 minutes, but neither here or there. I pray everybody has a good week. I pray that you start fresh. Last week may not have went the way you wanted to. Today may not have went the way you wanted to, but don't allow that to be the space you dwell in. Change your attitude, operate in a space that's going to bring you the fruits of your labor, and trust God to give you what He has for your life, and make sure your will's done His will's done in your life. Excuse me. But yeah, let's do it. Let's win the week. Let's win the day. And I appreciate you guys tuning in. You guys enjoy. Talk to you soon.